Welcome to the AV 1611 Hour. My name is Nelson Turner, and this broadcast is dedicated to the King James Bible, which is the Word of God of the English language to all the end-time English-speaking peoples of the world. Today, I'm going to present a special study and some fruits of my own personal research into Romanism and Dispensationalism. The tie between Roman Catholicism and Dispensationalism. In all of my time of reading books, of studying the Word of God, and studying Christian history, I cannot find any evidence of the teaching concerning the rapture of the saints and the beginning of a 7-year tribulation or a 3.5-year tribulation, and all such notions as that, anywhere in church history before 1532. In 1532, there was a Popish letter circulated in England. And that Popish letter, that Catholic letter that was circulated by Catholics in England amongst Protestants to subvert them from the faith of Jesus Christ and to turn them from looking upon the Pope as that man of sin, that son of perdition, and the Antichrist. To keep Protestants from recognizing that the bishop in the See of Rome was indeed the Antichrist spoken of that should come, Catholics did much as they could to subvert and twist and turn Protestants from looking at the Pope as the man of sin and son of perdition, and rather looking elsewhere for that person to come forth, not out of the Romish Church, but out of either Israel and the Jews, or out of some other place. It was to take the heat off the Pope of Rome as the Antichrist. And they sought to do that by circulating a letter. And these volumes I have are very rare. I have in front of me Strype's Memorials and also Strype's Annals of the Reformation. These are ecclesiastical memorials relating chiefly to religion and the reformation of it, showing the various emergencies of the Church of England under King Henry VIII, with remarks and observations made occasionally of persons in church and state of eminent note in that king's reign, and particularly by the two English cardinals, Wolsey and Pole. And this particular edition was printed by the Clarendon Press in Oxford in 1822, and I have it here. I bought it for a pretty penny, to say the least, on Amazon. It's one of a kind, and it's been rebound, which was the nice part about it. So it's a good working copy of this set of the Annals and Memorials of the Reformation by Strype. And that's by John Strype. He was an English ecclesiastical man. And here I'm going to read from chapter 32, Anno 1533. The Pope called Antichrist. This is from page 252 of the volume I have before me. And the volume I'm reading from is the Ecclesiastical Memorial relating chiefly to religion and the reformation of it. But it's from the Ecclesiastical Memorials by John Strype, M.A., printed in Oxford, 1822. And it's concerning religion, and it's concerning the time under Henry VIII, Edward VI, and Queen Mary I, this volume. And from volume 1, page 252, I read this whole paragraph, and then from there we're going to delve down more deeply into the actual letters circulated by the papist to seek to subvert Christians. You got to understand, brother or sister in Christ, that the thing that the devil opposes most in the world is the church of the living God, the work of the Holy Ghost, the power of Jesus Christ, and in the English language, the King James Bible, and faith thereof in it. He seeks to subvert people from believing the plain words with the common English definitions as they're written, and seeks to turn you aside on the cunningly devised fables. And dispensationalism, as found in the old Schofield printing of the King James Bible, is a heresy. It's a Popish invention, and I can find no trace of any part of it present in the Christian church before 1532, 1533, in this letter circulated by Catholics to subvert Protestants in England. Now, oddly enough, Ignatius, in the summer of 1530, went on a begging mission to England, and specifically to London. And it's speculated by some Jesuit authors that he may have visited Sir Thomas More. I don't doubt that he visited those Charterhouse monks that were in rebellion against King Henry VIII. And he went on a begging mission to the Spanish merchants of London to seek to get alms and money to support his weird and perverse spiritual lifestyle. Now, I read from page 252 of Stripes Memorials Ecclesiastical, the whole section without comment, this whole big paragraph. The Pope was now reckoned among many as the Antichrist for the opposition he made by his creatures to the gospel and for his overthrowing the laws of it by his dispensations and traditions, and for his pride and affection of superiority over all princes and bishops throughout the world. And the king was the more willing to allow people to lay the severe charge upon him that he might the better vindicate his own supremacy and his own dominions. But the favorers of the Pope were much concerned at it and endeavored to lay that name of Antichrist somewhere else. I met with a manuscript written by some papist about this time, as I guess, treating about Antichrist, wherein the author undertakes to tell us, by diligent reading of books, as he pretends that Antichrist should be born of the Jews and of the tribe of Dan, because in Genesis it is said, Dan shall be a serpent in the way. That's Genesis 49. That in his conception the devil shall enter into the womb of his mother, and that he shall hold her altogether, both inwardly and outwardly. That which is born may be altogether wicked and the son of perdition. That he shall be born in Babylon and brought up in Bethsaida and Chorazin, because the Lord cursed those places, Luke 10. That he should come to Jerusalem, and that all such Christians as will not turn to him he shall slay by diverse torments, and place his seat in the holy temple, and shall call himself the Son of God. That there shall be a sad tribulation for 3 years and an half. Get that? That he shall come at the consummation of Rome's empire, because it is said, there shall come a departing first, 1 Thessalonians 2, that departing he makes to refer to a certain French king that shall hold the Roman Empire, and at the last shall come to Jerusalem, and there lay down his scepter and crown in Mount Olivet. That this Antichrist shall circumcise himself, and then call himself Christ. And then all the Jews shall flee unto him. But after 3 years and a half, in which time he shall make all this havoc and stir in the world, God shall destroy him with the breath of his mouth. But I refer the reader for the whole comment to the paper in the appendix. The papists, by these fabulous and ridiculous stories of Antichrist, endeavored to cast a mist before men's eyes, that they should the less believe and understand the Pope to be him. End quote. That's from John Stripes' Memorials Ecclesiastical, published by Oxford in 1822, reprinting a much older document. And the thing about John Stripe is, he only lived a generation or so away from the actual events, and he had access to the original documents pertaining to the activities of the Reformation and the activities of the Antichrist Roman Catholic Church against the kings and queens of England in that time. He was able to access the original documents, and in many cases, he copied the documents down and into his own works in the appendices, which is what we're going to go to now. The appendices of the records and originals concerning this matter. Forgive me if I wipe my eye for a minute. If I look like I have black eyes, it's because I just had eye surgery about a week ago, and I'm still a little bit on the mend. But I would ask of you, in that discourse I just read from John Stripe, did you notice a similarity of certain passages that he lays forth as to what are in this letter I'm about to read you, and then compare them to the dispensationalism that began with the Plymouth Brethren and the Darbyites, and then was transferred down to C.I. Schofield and on so through the end of the 20th century, and is held to be true doctrine by many, many people, including what are called Ruckmanites, or people that say they believe the King James Bible, but don't believe the doctrines called the doctrines of grace by Calvinists, don't believe that God is sovereign, but rather believe that man is sovereign and chooses whether or not he will go to heaven because he's not been chosen, therefore he must choose, or else God will damn him to hell. That the choice is not God's who will go to heaven and who will go to hell, but rather it is man's, and that's a damnable doctrine in itself. But there are many other people, many well-heeled, fat and rich TV preachers that preach this doctrine, and they preach that Israel will make a deal with the Antichrist and all this sort of thing. And we're going to find out now from Stripes Memorials in this letter, this Popish discourse of Antichrist that was circulated in England in 1533, that this is the first place in history we can note many of the particular tenets of dispensationalism as taught by the Southwest Radio Church, Perry F. Rockwood, and many, many other people throughout the United States and Canada to this very day, that these tenets of that doctrine of dispensationalism can first be found in this Popish letter, circulated in England in 1532 and 33 to subvert Protestants. Now, if you say you're belaboring your words, well, there's a lot of opposition by the devil for me to do this, so I'm being very careful in what I say and how I say it. But we must point out, I was in dispensationalism for quite a while. I was taught that from the moment I was saved and I began to attend a fundamental Bible-believing church. Fundamental Bible-believing. Bible-believing until the preacher ran into some words that he thought shouldn't be there, and then he'd get rid of them, though he did use the King James. And in Bible-believing fundamentalism, they all use the old Scofield, not the new Scofield, but the old one. And I was told if you want the best Bible, go out and get the Scofield Bible, the 1917 printing that follows the 1917 printing, and read that, and then read those notes, and you'll understand what's going on with the Bible. That's what one of these fundamentalists told me. And after a while, after about 4 years of reading that Scofield Bible, I began to get angry because I realized that there were things in the notes that just didn't accord with Scripture, and I began to cross them right out of my Bible, my Scofield Bible. I had another Bible that I got saved when I was reading, and that was my grandma's Bible. It was a King James, commonly following the 1769 printing. I know there's a bunch of hubbub about that. But where the word of a king is, there is power. And who may say unto him, what doest thou? And if the Bible that I have before me, which is the King James Bible in my pulpit here today, if that is able to make thee wise unto salvation, then it is God's word, simple as that. And I put faith and trust in that book, confessed with my mouth what I believed in my heart, that everything in it was true. And right then, bam, I was born again. I was washed in the blood. I became to know that I was washed in the blood. I became a new creature. It took me 3 days to figure out that the difference in my life and the joy in my heart was the presence of the Holy Ghost showing me Christ the Savior, and having guided and led me to believe that Christ was the Savior, he then sealed me unto the day of redemption of the purchased possession. And anyhow, I believe the King James Bible is the Word of God. And it doesn't matter to me. The Cambridge printings seem to be the ones without admixture or without typings and spelling errors. I found many King James Bibles that do have spelling and typo errors, but I haven't found that in the Cambridge edition of the King James Bible. So that's generally what I refer to as the court of final resort. But now to get to Stripes' letter. You're going to hear things in here, if you're familiar with dispensationalism, that you've heard before. And in that previous little synopsis that Stripe wrote, this idea that the Antichrist would rise up out of the tribe of Dan, I can remember getting literature back in the late 80s from the Southwest Radio Bible Church, of whom Noah Hutchings was the chief speaker. And I imagine he's passed on by now. He was very old back then. But they were hardcore dispensationalists, and they printed a lot of dispensational material. And in their dispensational materials that I got, that I paid for and read, there was one booklet that spoke of the suggestion that many Christians had come to the conclusion that the Antichrist was going to come from the tribe of Dan. And then lo and behold, these many years later, what happens? I get a copy of Stripes' Annals and Stripes' Memorials of the Reformation in England under the various kings and queens. And I find in these books a copy of a Popish letter that taught that the Antichrist would very likely rise from the tribe of Dan. So what I came to the conclusion was that the dispensationalists were preaching Popish doctrine. And they were all once saved, always saved people, but they all taught the Jesuit doctrine of free will. And I don't have time on this particular section of my broadcast to go into that. But free will is a misnomer when it concerns Christianity and people being saved. God saved you according to his own good pleasure and will. He saved you according to his free will. Because if his will was not free to override your will, you would not be saved. If you read the Westminster Confession of Faith and the Shorter Catechism, you will find the true doctrine in there. You'll find the true doctrine there laid out very succinctly and clearly for the simplest mind to understand. That man is born into a state of depravity, a state of wickedness, and he is so wicked that all of his parts, that all of his members, that all of his emotional, mental, intellectual, and spiritual being are completely tainted with sin to the point that he is incapable of choosing the good and refusing the evil. So Christ, for the elect's sake, and for the elect's sake only, when he came into the world, he knew to refuse the evil and choose the good in our stead. But I won't digress any further. And please forgive me if I take a sip now and then. It's winter in Pennsylvania, and my throat tends to get a little hoarse at this time of year. This is a Popish Discourse of Antichrist from page 182. Let me make sure I read it right off the title page off the frontispiece, from the Ecclesiastical Morals relating chiefly to religion and the Reformation of it, Volume 1, Part 2, printed at the Oxford Press, the Clarendon Press in Oxford, 1822. And from that volume, on page 182, I read number 45, A Popish Discourse of Antichrist. Now I'm going to quote this. It's going to be without admixture, and you can hear it for yourself. You can download it and put it in your computer and listen to it over and over again if you want. But compare this to the dispensationalism of our present day, and you can see where the first fruit of this doctrine came from and where that root of the doctrine, now believed and now put into practice, as it were, in many ways by Protestant Christians, came from. This doctrine of the Antichrist, the 70th week of Daniel, and a 3.5 or a 7-year Great Tribulation. It all came right out of Rome, and it came first from this Popish doctrine, this Popish discourse, before the formal founding of the Jesuit order, before the order actually had recognition from the Pope, 1532, 1533, before they had formed themselves as a company of anointed priests, anointed by the Pope's good pleasure, before they had saddled up and gone off and began the Counter-Reformation. The Counter-Reformation was already in full swing by Popish persons, either in England or on the continent, seeking to infect the great commonweal of England with heresy and damnable doctrines. So here it is, a Popish discourse of Antichrist. Ye that are willing to know of Antichrist shall know first why he is so called. Therefore, that is to say, because in all things he is contrary to Christ, and shall do things contrary to Christ. Christ cometh humble, he cometh proud. Christ cometh to raise up the humble and to justify sinners. He contrarily shall cast down the humble, magnify sinners, exalt the wicked, and shall always teach vices which are contrary to virtues. And the evangelic law shall he bring to naught, and shall renew and bring again into the world the doctrine of the devil, seeking vain glory, and shall name himself the omnipotent God. The Antichrist, therefore, hath many ministers of his malignity, of whom may have gone before in the world, as Antiochus, Nero, and Domitian were. We also have known many antichrists to be in our time. For whosoever he be, whether he be a layman or a canonist or a monk, that liveth against justice or impugneth the glory of his order, and blasphemeth that which is good, he is an antichrist, a minister of Satan. But now let us see of the beginning of Antichrist, that truly which I say, I feign it not, neither do I invent it of my proper sense, but by diligent reading of the books I find all these things written. For as our authors say, Antichrist shall be born of the Jews, of the tribe of Dan, according to the prophet, saying, Dan shall be a serpent in the way and an adder in the path. That's Genesis 49. For like as a serpent shall he sit in the way and be in the path, that he may strike them that walk in the path of justice and slay them with the poison of his malice. He shall be born by the copulation of a father and a mother, he shall not be born by the copulation of a father and mother as other men, not as some say of a lone virgin, but notwithstanding he shall be conceived wholly in sin, engendered in sin, and born in sin. In the very beginning of his conception, the devil also shall enter into the womb of his mother, and shall be nourished and defended in his mother's belly by the power of the devil, and the power of the devil shall be always with him. And like as the Holy Ghost came into the mother of our Lord, and shadowed her with his virtue, and filled her with godliness, that she might receive the Holy Ghost, that it which should be born should be divine and holy, so also the devil shall come into the mother of Antichrist, and shall fill her wholly, compass her round about, hold her wholly, and altogether, both inwardly and outwardly, shall possess her, that she may conceive by a man, the devil working, and that which shall be born may be altogether wicked and pernicious. Whereupon he is called both the son of sin and the son of perdition, because as much as he may, he shall destroy all humankind. He himself shall be the last destroyed. Behold, ye have heard how he must be born. Here also the place where he must be born. For like as our Lord and Redeemer did foresee for himself Bethlehem, that there for us he might take humanity and vouchsafe to be born, so the devil knoweth the fit place for that man of perdition, which is called Antichrist, from whom the root of all mischief shall spring, that is to say, the city of Babylon. For in this city, which some time as the most renowned and glorious city of the Gentiles, and chief of the kingdoms of the Persians, shall Antichrist be born. And in the cities Bethsaida and Chorazin must he be brought up and be conversant, which cities the Lord and the evangelist courses, saying, Woe unto thee, Bethsaida! Woe unto thee, Chorazin! Antichrist shall have wise men, witches, soothsayers, enchanters, who the devil inspiring them shall nourish and teach him in all iniquity, falsehood, and wicked art. And malign spirits shall be his captains and fellows always, and unseparated companions. Afterwards, coming to Jerusalem, all such Christians as will not convert unto him shall he slay by diverse torments, and place his seat in the holy temple. I got to stop there for a minute. You see that? There's the papist teaching, the Popish teaching of a rebuilt temple, and Antichrist going in and sit down in the temple, professing himself to be God. The Pope is the one that's already done that, but in this Popish letter, they seek to deceive you and think it refers to some man that is yet to be born, when it's already happened in the time we live, and it's been happening ever since about 600 AD. So continue now in this Popish discourse of Antichrist. I'll read that again, this section. Afterwards, coming to Jerusalem, all such Christians as he will not convert unto him shall he slay by diverse torments, and place his seat in the holy temple. He shall restore also the holy temple, which Solomon builded unto God in his state, and shall falsely say himself to be the Son of God. Let me stop again. That's the Pope. He wore a crown that said Invictus Dei Fii, means faithful substitute for the Son of God. And he is addressed as the Son of God and God Almighty and Holy Father by his adherents. That's me speaking. But he first shall convert kings and princes unto him, and afterward through them the rest of the people. First he shall destroy the places by which our Lord Christ walked, and afterward he shall send his messengers and preachers throughout all the world. His preaching truly and power shall reach from sea to sea, from the east even unto the west, from the north even unto the south. And shall do also many signs, great and marvelous, not heard of. That is to say, trees suddenly to flourish and wither, the sea to be troubled, and suddenly to be calumniated, natures to be changed in diverse forms, the air to be moved with winds, and many other kinds of motions, and other innumerable and marvelous, the dead to be raised in the sight of men, so that if it may be, the very elect shall be brought into error. For when they shall see such great and like signs, they also, which are the most heavenly and perfect of God, shall doubt whether he be Christ, that shall come in the end of the world according to the Scriptures, or no. All these miracles truly by all means shall he be false through devilish enchantments. But unto sinners and unbelieving they shall seem to be true. He shall stir up persecution under all the heaven, upon Christians and all elect. He shall set himself against the faithful 3 ways, that is, by terror, gifts, and miracles. He shall give unto you, believing in him, abundance of gold and silver. Those truly whom he cannot deceive by gifts, he shall overcome by terror. And whom he cannot overcome by terror, he shall essay to seduce by signs and miracles. But those whom by signs and miracles he cannot allure, in the sight of all men shall he slay with the most miserable death. Then there shall be such tribulation as was not since the time that nations began, even unto that time. Then they which are in the field shall flee into the hills, and whoso is upon the bed shall not descend into the house, that they may take anything found out of it. Then every Christian which shall be found, either he shall deny God, or else by the sword, or by the fire of the furnace, or else by serpents, or else by beast, or else by some such like kind of torment, shall he command to be slain, if they continue in their faith. And here, I must say, this is me interposing now, interpolating with my words, that we have a reference in this last paragraph that I just read from this Popish discourse to Matthew chapter 24 and 25, which has already been fulfilled, and which is a subsequent broadcast I will do, reading from a book called The Destruction of Jerusalem, concerning the prophecies which were fulfilled in the time of 70 AD, when the Roman armies sacked the city and destroyed the people and brought them abroad and sold them, and no man would buy them because there was such a glut on the market of slaves. But that'll come later. So now we'll go back to this Popish discourse. Quotes, "This tribulation, so terrible and to be feared, shall continue altogether 3 years and a half." Notice the time. "Then shall the days be shortened for the elect's sake. For except he had shortened those days, no flesh should be saved. The time truly when Antichrist shall come, or when the day of judgment shall appear, Paul the apostle, in his epistle to the Thessalonians, saying, We beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, in the same place showeth it manifest where he saith, For except the departing come first, and the man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, and so forth. For we know because that after the kingdom of the Greeks, or also after the kingdom of the Persians, out of which either of them hath for their time shined with great glory and flourished in most great power, at the last also, after other kingdoms, the kingdom of the Romans began, which was strongest of all the former kingdoms, and had all the kingdoms of the earth under its dominion, and all nations of the people were subject to the Romans, and served them under tribute. Afterward, therefore, saith the apostle Paul, that Antichrist shall not come into the world except the departing come first. That is to say, except all kingdoms which were first subdued shall depart from the Roman Empire. But this time cometh not yet, because we must see the Roman Empire for the most part destroyed, yet notwithstanding so long as the kings of French men shall endure, who shall hold the Roman Empire shall not utterly perish, because it shall stand in their kings. Let me stop. You notice now they're teaching a revived Roman Empire. That's what all the dispensationalists have taught. That's what C.I. Scofield taught. Enough said. I'll read that again. Yet notwithstanding, so long as the kings of French men shall endure, who shall hold the Roman Empire shall not utterly perish, because it shall stand in their kings. For certain of our doctors say that one of the kings of the French men shall wholly hold the Roman Empire, which king shall be in the last time. He shall be the greatest and last of all kings, who after he hath luckily governed his people, at the last shall come to Jerusalem, and lay down his scepter and crown in the Mount Olivet. This shall be the end and consummation of the empire of the Romans and all Christians. And then by and by, according to the aforesaid sentence of the apostle Paul, they say, Antichrist shall come. Next paragraph. And then truly shall the man of sin be revealed, that is to say, Antichrist. Now let me stop there. Instead of him already having been revealed, as Martin Luther pointed at the Pope of Rome and said he be the Antichrist, that son of perdition, that man of sin, and as all the Protestants of that time did as well after him, and even before that, the Lollards, some of them the Waldenses, recognized in the papal see and in the Pope's person that man of sin, that son of perdition. The papal dynasty is the dynasty of Antichrist. And every single pope has been, is, and will be an Antichrist until the Lord shall destroy the Antichrist and the house of Antichrist with the brightness of his shining and his power. So I'm going to read this again, this paragraph from John Stripe. If you're enjoying this, why don't you email me? I know there's people, there's 15, 20 of you that watch all the time. Let me know you appreciate this. And if you're encouraged by it, I'd like to hear from you. You can contact me, Nelson Turner, at bookland@comcast.net. That's Nelson Turner at Bookland, BOOKLAND. My email address, bookland@comcast.net. Now I'll continue on here. This has no set time or ending here, this particular broadcast. And then truly shall the man of sin be revealed, that is to say, Antichrist, who although he be a man, notwithstanding shall be the wellspring of all sin and the son of perdition. This is the son of the devil, because in all things he shall do his will, because the plenitude of all devilish power and all wicked disposition shall corporally dwell in him, in whom all the treasures of maliciousness and iniquity shall be hidden, who doth repunge, that is to say, is contrary to Christ and all his members, and is exalted, that is to say, set up into pride above all that is called God, that is above the gods of the Gentiles, Apollo, Jupiter, Mercury, whom the pagans esteem to be gods. Antichrist is extolled above all these gods, because he shall make himself greater and stronger than they all. Not only above them, but also above all that is worshipped, that is above the Holy Trinity, which now is only to be worshipped and adored of every creature. He shall so extol himself that he may sit in the temple of God, showing himself as if he were God. For as we have aforesaid, being born in the city of Babylon, coming to Jerusalem, he shall circumcise himself, saying, I am Christ, which is promised you, who come for your salvation, that you who are dispersed, I may gather together and defend you. I'm going to read the next paragraph, then I'll make comment on this. Then shall all the Jews flee unto him, thinking to receive God, but they shall receive the devil. Antichrist also shall sit in the temple of God, that is, in the holy temple, desiring all Christians to be martyrs. He shall be elevated and magnified, because the devil, the head of all mischief, shall be in him, who is king over all the sons of pride. Antichrist shall suddenly and unadvisedly come and deceive and destroy all mankind through his error. Did you get what they just put across there? It's the very same teaching of dispensationalism. And some of the dispensationalists, I remember Joseph Chambers, I believe, of Paul Creek Ministries, he was teaching a rebuilt Babylon. The Bible's very clear about that. It will be destroyed with a perpetual desolation and will never be rebuilt again. But these false prophets, these deceitful workers, teach that Babylon will be rebuilt in such nonsense. God said it would be a perpetual desolation. And back in Desert Storm, there was a glut in the market of antiquities from the various ancient empires that had been extant in the area of Iraq, because our soldiers were digging them up when they were filling sandbags with sands and were selling them on the international market and on eBay. One of the heliopads was right on part of the ruins of the place. It's never going to be rebuilt and become a glorious, huge city again. That's heresy. And I've parted company with people over that. It's heresy. To teach a strict dispensationalism, you cannot be a Bible believer. You cannot believe the words of the King James Bible. And you surely cannot be a Calvinist. You cannot be a believer in the doctrines of grace. You cannot believe in the covenant of works in the Old Testament and the covenant of grace in the New, and found in the Old as well. You cannot believe these things. And you cannot believe that God has his own elect and that he will ever keep them, that he has chosen them, they have not chosen him. And he's chosen them and ordained them that they should come and bring forth fruit. You cannot believe any of these things and be a dispensationalist. You cannot believe the King James Bible in its entirety and then deny the doctrines contained therein. We have two groups of people in America. Those that profess to believe the King James Bible but deny the doctrines therein. And then those that believe the doctrines therein, but don't use the King James Bible. Many of these Calvinists, they use the contemporary English version or some other version or perversion besides the King's English. If you're a Calvinist and you want to go backwards and use the Geneva Bible, fine, have to it. That's lawful if you want to do it. But you've got number one in the King James Bible right in front of you. You don't need to do that. Anyhow, did you notice what the papists did? They said that this Antichrist was going to make a deal with the Jews. The Jews were going to receive him and make a deal with the devil. Isn't that what the dispensationalists teach? I know, because I used to be one. I was taught to be one, not of God, but of man. And over the years, all this baggage that men have sought to lay on me has fallen off my back, and I thank the Lord that I am the Lord's free man. I owe no man anything but to love him, and I owe my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, everything. And the spirit of prophecy and the power of preaching is upon me, whether you recognize it or not. I'm here to separate the chaff from the wheat. I'm throwing in the fork and tossing it up in the air. And the chaff shall be blown away, but the wheat shall abide in the master's barn. I'm going to read this again. The Jews shall flee unto him, thinking to receive God, but they shall receive the devil. Antichrist also shall sit in the temple of God, that is, the holy temple, desiring all Christians to be martyrs. He shall be elevated and magnified, because the devil, the head of all mischief, shall be in him, who is king over all the sons of pride. Antichrist shall suddenly and unadvisedly come and deceive and destroy all mankind through his error. Afore his beginning, two prophets shall be sent unto the world, that is, Enoch and Elias, who by divine weapons of God shall defend the faithful and instruct them against wicked Antichrist, and shall comfort and set forward the elect unto war, teaching and preaching 3 years and a half. Where have you heard this before? In dispensationalism. And they argue about whether it's Elijah and Enoch or whether it's Elijah and Moses. They guess at who it is. Well, here it is. Here's the original. There's two witnesses that stand before God of the whole earth. And I'm not going to profess to correctly, prophetically interpret those things, but I'll tell you one thing. The papists, if they're teaching something, you can almost be sure it's error when it comes to prophecy, because they're seeking to cover for that man of sin and son of perdition, their head, who innervates their whole body. The Popish person, the papists, they all believe that the Pope innervates and fills the whole body, and they speak of it in the same manner as we Christians believe that Christ inhabits and dwells in his own body, his own people, the Christians. So after his beginning, two prophets shall be sent into the world, that is Enoch and Elias, who by the divine weapons of God shall defend the faithful and instruct them against wicked Antichrist, and shall comfort and set forward the elect unto war, teaching and preaching 3 years and a half. So many as can be found at that time of the children of Israel shall these two great prophets and doctors convert unto the faith, and shall restore them from the oppression of so great trouble, being separated from the elect. Then shall it be fulfilled that the scripture saith, if the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, those that are left shall be saved. But after they shall have preached 3 years and a half, by and by the persecutions of Antichrist shall begin to wax hot. And Antichrist shall first take up his weapon against them, and shall slay them, as it is said in the Apocalypse. And when saith he, shall end his testament, the beast shall come from the bottomless pit, and shall make war against them, and shall slay them. After that, therefore, these 2 days, these two shall be slain. then pursuing the rest of the faithful, he shall either make glorious martyrs, or else many so forsake their Christian religion. And whosoever shall believe in him shall receive the sign of his seal in their foreheads. But now, seeing we have told of this his beginning, let us show what end he shall have. The Antichrist, therefore, the son of the devil, the most vile worker of all evil, when he hath, as is aforesaid, vexed the whole world 3 years and a half with great persecution, and shall have vexed all the people of God with diverse punishments, after he shall have slain Elias and Enoch, and crowning the rest remaining in faith with martyrdom, at the last shall the wrath of God come upon him, as blessed Paul hath written, saying, whom the Lord shall slay with the breath of his mouth. Fini. So there it is, a Popish discourse concerning Antichrist. First circulated in 1532, 1533, during the reign of King Henry VIII, King Henry VIII of England. And so many tenets of current and present day dispensationalism are present in there that I do not think I need to go any further and point it out. If you listen closely, rewind the video, listen to the words that I'm reading, and then compare just how many doctrines of current day dispensationalism, sorry, I'm stumbling on my words a little bit, this dispensationalism that I was raised in, that maybe you've been deceived by, was being taught almost 500 years ago by Popish persons of the Roman Catholic Church in Protestant England, or soon to be Protestant England. So, if you've enjoyed this, I encourage you to contact me. You can contact me at bookland at comcast.net. My name is Nelson Turner, and this is the AV 1611 Hour. Till next time, may the Lord Jesus Christ richly bless you as you give obedience unto his word, the King James Bible.